Well, I feel really honored to be here today. In fact, when Cindy reached out to me, we were having this conversation over the phone, and I told her, I said, I just have chills up and down my body, absolutely amazed with what she is doing in this Joy Project, and there's nothing more than I want to spread than joy and happiness, and that's part of my message here for you today. And to be honest, as I was kind of preparing my thoughts for you today, I had this really strong feeling that I needed to be really vulnerable. So I'm going to share some things with you today that I've probably never told anyone, and I'm hoping that you'll feel inspired and uplifted and maybe even be able to relate to it a little bit on your own. So my story starts on October 3rd, 2010. I was pregnant with our fourth baby, and I was in labor. My husband was in Chicago. He had recently taken a new job, and he was told he was going to need to do 8 weeks of training, so he was in Chicago. But miraculously, my sister was in southern Utah visiting, where we lived at the time, because her husband was planning to run the St. George Marathon. And after several hours of denying that I was in labor, I couldn't put off the inevitable any longer. And my sister excitedly drove me to the hospital. And I say excited because she was absolutely thrilled to be the one watching the birth rather than giving the birth. And she couldn't wait to be my cheerleader. She couldn't wait to be there and coach me and be excited for me and help me get through that process. And at the time, she was the mother of 3 children. And so she had only experienced birth from the mother's perspective, and she was just really excited to be the one on the other end. In fact, today she still likes to tell people that she's the one that cut the umbilical cord because she loved that so much. Anyway, with my husband being gone, we had planned an induction, but obviously things didn't go as planned, and I went into labor early, and as contractions started early that Sunday morning, I knew that I needed to go to the hospital. And I was really worried that I was going to deliver this baby without my husband, my best friend, the one that I needed most, and I knew that I was going to do this alone. But luckily, I had my sister there, and when we arrived to the hospital, I was dilated to a 6, so I knew there was no turning back. And within a couple of hours, our sweet baby Jack was born. And I remember looking at him and thinking something looked different, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what that was. And everyone in the room was saying, "Does he look like any of your other children?" And I thought, he really doesn't look like any of my other kids, but I didn't know why I thought that or why I felt that way. And I heard the doctor say to the nurse, "Is there a heart murmur?" And she said, "No." And I thought, heart murmur? Okay, well good, there's no heart murmur. And labor and delivery was exhausting, and once the nurses and the doctor left the room, I found myself trying to relax, but deep down I knew that something wasn't right. And I couldn't relax, and within a couple of hours, the pediatrician arrived, and I thought, wow, this pediatrician is really on top of things. I was really impressed that he was there. And he walked in, he leaned up against the countertop, he folded his arms, and he just looked at me and said, "We think the baby has Down syndrome." And I was shocked. I didn't have any words. I couldn't get any words to come out of my mouth. I had just gone through a delivery by myself. I didn't have my husband there, and I had absolutely no words. And this right here, what I'm about to tell you, is why my sister needed to be there. God knew that I needed her. He knew that I needed her wisdom, I needed her strength, and her ability to feel exactly what I was feeling right there in that moment. So I turned to her, not knowing what to say, and I looked at her with tears in my eyes, and she confidently said, "It doesn't matter." And her words were exactly what I needed to feel, and it was the strength that I needed to feel right there in that moment. Growing up, I hadn't had very much interaction with individuals who have Down syndrome. In fact, looking back, I don't even remember knowing anyone who had Down syndrome. And my husband and I were recently having a conversation, and he said, "What was it that came to your mind? What made you so worried when you were told that Jack had Down syndrome? Where did your mind go?" And what were you so afraid of? And up to that point in time, my perception of people with Down syndrome is that they didn't have much use for in society. And I feel really guilty saying this, but I saw them as people that were just there, but no one had very much use for them, and what did they contribute to in society? And I remember looking back, and I had a really good friend who, when she was pregnant in her late 30s, her doctor had her go in and had her do all of those tests, and one of those tests was to test whether or not her baby would be born with Down syndrome. And I remember she was extremely worried that that test would come back positive, and how relieved she was when the test came back negative. So in my mind, I had just given birth to a baby. That no one else wanted. And I didn't know how, I didn't know how anyone else would see his value or his worth in society, and I was really worried that he would be made fun of and that he wouldn't have the same experiences that his siblings and typical peers would have. And on top of that, everyone around me kept telling me that this was amazing, that they were really excited for me, and that I was so lucky to have a baby with Down syndrome. But I didn't feel lucky. And I didn't think it was amazing. And I felt like maybe God was punishing me for something that I had done wrong in life. And I also felt a lot of guilt for being sad, because I wanted to grieve for the loss of the baby that I thought I was going to have. But everyone around me kept telling me how lucky I was. And it was a lot. And I needed time to grieve and to process my emotions. But because of a series of events, Jack was transported from southern Utah up to Primary Children's Hospital to undergo surgery for duodenal atresia, which is where your stomach isn't attached to your intestines. And so he was there in the hospital for 2 months, while my husband was still in Chicago finishing up his training for his new job. And our 3 older children stayed in Cedar City with their grandparents. So I was in a hospital and I was there alone. I had a lot of people that would come in and out and visit me, which was amazing, but I was alone and I was completely in survival mode. And I watched the seasons change through the hospital windows. And I remember one day just feeling so alone and so sad and feeling so worried. And I prayed to Heavenly Father and I said, I can't do this. This is so hard. I can't do this. And I remember specifically having the words come to my head that said, but you are doing this. Once the dust settled and we arrived home, we were all reunited as a family. And it was then that I found myself in a very dark place. Where once I had felt very in tune with God, I found myself feeling as if he had abandoned me. And I was really angry with him. I kept asking, why me? Why do I have to do this? There are so many other people out there who are so much more capable than me, who are more capable of raising a child with special needs. And I wanted desperately to feel of his love for me. I wanted to know what my purpose was. I wanted to know that he had a plan for me, and I wanted to know that everything was going to be okay. And specifically, I remember praying for a glimpse into Jack's life. I thought if Heavenly Father could just give me a glimpse of what his life would look like in the future, then everything would be okay, and I would know that I would be okay. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was severely depressed. And those were very dark days that were spent in agony. And I wanted to sleep, but I couldn't. My mind was constantly triggered with worry and fear and anxiety and feeling like I wasn't enough and that I couldn't do this. And I found myself even having thoughts like, on my way to the grocery store today, what if I got hit by a car? And I didn't have to do this anymore. Maybe that would make things easier. And that was hard. It was then that God intervened. I was out driving one day, and my sweet sister-in-law, out of the blue, called me. And when I answered the phone, she said, "I don't know why, but I've had this nagging feeling all day that I need to call you. What's going on?" It was a tender mercy from God. From that moment, I let everything go. I told her all of my deepest, darkest worries, darkest fears that I didn't dare say out loud to anyone else. I had not told anyone how I was feeling. And she listened to me, she validated my feelings, and then she suggested that I start saying some positive affirmations out loud. And it was from that moment on that I began to heal. And some of those affirmations that she had me say out loud were these: I am grateful for the feelings of peace and well-being that abound in me. I am creating more and more experiences that generate feelings of joy. I am a positive person who enjoys the adventure of this life. I am creating more and more of what I want effortlessly. I am creating joy in the journey and sharing it with others along the way. At this time in my life, pain and struggle had become a very familiar part of my life. However, changing the way that I talk to myself and adding physical movement back into my life brought me back to feeling good, feeling like myself, and experiencing happiness. And I was able to share those feelings of joy with other people. And leading up to all of these events, before I became pregnant with Jack, I had been teaching group fitness classes, but I added Zumba fitness to that resume, and I became a certified Zumba fitness instructor. And I did Zumba all throughout my pregnancy, and in fact, I would tell my participants, this baby's gonna come out dancing. I just know it, he's gonna come out dancing. And for any of you that have ever seen Jack, or if you know him, he loves to dance. He loves music, it just resonates with him. He absolutely loves to dance. Anyway, I had been teaching classes in Cedar City when we lived there, and after Jack was out of the hospital, we moved up to Salt Lake, and I started looking for places to teach. And I found a couple of places and started teaching there. And I want to tell you that there is just something about music and dancing that is so healing for your mind and for your body. There's something about it that when you allow yourself to be vulnerable around other people when you're dancing, you're able to let go of your worries, your struggles, your insecurities in life. And I am one of those people that are addicted to movement. I love to move my body. So I knew that I needed to get back to teaching, and once I found a couple places to teach, it was there in that group fitness room that I tell people Zumba healed me. It was the one place that I could go where no one else knew what I was feeling or what I was experiencing or any of these thoughts that I was having. And I could go there and I could let it all out through dance. And as I got to know these other participants in class, we have become lifelong friends. I have some of these dear friends here with me today. And I like to tell people that there is something magical that happens in a group fitness classroom. You're there with all these women from all different walks of life. And once you allow those walls of vulnerability to come down, there's something magical that happens because you connect through those feelings of vulnerability. And you're able to make those lifelong friendships, which is something that we all need, right? And most of my closest friends are people that I've met at the gym. It took a while for me to share my story with these friends. But since sharing my story of how movement and fitness helped heal me through that process, I've had other women who have come to me and have since said, "You have no idea, but I was going through divorce, I was experiencing infertility, I've been so depressed, I lost my mom to cancer, and your class is the one thing that got me through some of the hardest and most difficult days of my life." And this is where I have found my community, my tribe. I like to call them my tribe. Everyone needs a tribe. A group of friends who just love you the way you are, but also encourage you to become the best version of yourself. So I'm here to tell you today that there is joy beyond grief, beyond pain, beyond suffering, beyond those life circumstances that you think you're never going to be able to rise above. You can experience joy beyond all of that. Even when you feel like your life is completely turned upside down. As I started to heal, I told you that I had prayed for a glimpse into Jack's life and what his life would look like in the future. Well, one day, my husband and I, we stumbled across a video on YouTube of a young man who has Down syndrome, and for his high school project, his senior year, he created a video of his routine throughout the day. And as we watched this video, we watched him ride his bike to the YMCA independently, all by himself, to swim every single day. He would make himself a smoothie for breakfast, all by himself. His parents had helped him put together this system for organizing his clothes and his to-dos throughout the day. And as new parents of a baby with Down syndrome, we watched this video and we were absolutely in awe. We thought his life was completely amazing and so extraordinary. And we thought, if that's what Jack's life is gonna end up looking like, everything's gonna be okay. And over the years, we've gone back several times and we've talked about this video and how inspired we were as parents of a new baby with Down syndrome, and how that video was exactly what we needed to see. It was the glimpse that we had hoped for into Jack's future, and it gave us so much hope and peace and comfort from watching it. And so today, I feel really blessed because I have this opportunity on my Instagram account. If you go find me, you can follow Jack and you can see all of his cute dancing and his smile and just the wholesome goodness that he brings into other people's lives. But we feel so blessed that we get to share him and that we get to be that glimpse for somebody else if they receive that Down syndrome diagnosis. And we have had parents who have reached out to us and have said, I'm expecting a baby with Down syndrome and I found your page, and it has brought so much peace and comfort into my life. And it makes them excited. If I had been able to see a video like that after I had Jack, it would have made me feel really excited too. But even more, I want to be a source of peace and happiness and positivity for others. We're not perfect. We still have those days with Jack that are hard, but you know, I can say that about my other kids too. We have days with our other kids where life is hard and we're just trying to figure things out. But above all of that, we're just trying to see the good and be the good. Life is hard, but it's also amazing. Life is truly amazing. We don't all have the exact same experiences in life. We've all been through something hard, or we know someone who is or has gone through something that's really hard. And it's my challenge to each of you to find your tribe. Find those friends that you feel the most comfortable with, that you can be yourself with, but are there for you in the happy times and the hard times. And talk kindly to yourself. You can use my positive affirmations. Stick them to your mirror on a little sticky note. Read them out loud to yourself every single day. And be the good for yourself and for others. And if you go to my page and you see Jack's smile, I like to tell everybody that everyone deserves a smile like Jack's in their life every single day. If Jack can smile, and he has Down syndrome, I think we can smile too. I often like to tell people, I'm the one that has Down syndrome because I'm the one that sees the things that he can't do. And actually, he can do everything. And those people who told me in the beginning that this was going to be amazing, and I didn't believe them, they were right. It is amazing. Jack has added a new dimension of love and joy to our lives that we never would have experienced otherwise, and I'm really grateful for that. And I also want to say that God is good. He is so good.
Are you staying for lunch?
I love seeing how God touches our lives through other people. And I believe in the power of prayer. And not only the power of prayer, but the power that we can ignite within ourselves to heal our minds and to heal our bodies through movement and positive affirmations and finding your tribe. So no matter what it is that you love, mine is dancing, yours might be doing pottery or sewing or cooking or singing, hiking, whatever that thing is that you love. I like to tell people, whenever you're going through a hard time, always go back to that thing that you love, and I promise you, it'll bring you back to a place of peace and joy. Thank you for having me here.